Welcome. And tonight on Another Thing About Tartan, we welcome James Hughes, who joins us from Glasgow to tell us his story. By day, James is a hairdresser, but alongside his partner Kenny and their trusty dog Ollie, James runs one of Scotland's best loved Instagram home interior accounts, the Buchanan Interior. So despite not being a Buchanan himself, we just had to get James involved in our Buchanan Clan of the Month celebration. So welcome, James. Thank you very much for joining us.
No, thank you for having us.
So, James, I've read about you and Kenny, and you've been living in your famous flat for 9 years. So
Yes.
Tell us, have you always lived in Glasgow, or what's your story?
I kind of suffered a bit, I think, from gypsy blood at one point, as I seemed to travel the length and breadth of the UK, even reaching out as far as Australia at one point, thinking that Glasgow probably wasn't where my roots were meant to lie. And the funny thing is, it's the thing that keeps you safe. It's the thing that really does, now excite me and make me feel really patriotic about being a Glaswegian, I suppose, as well as Scottish. So I'm where our home is. I'm from 2 minutes from here, so the land didn't stretch too far for me to put down roots. That's for sure.
No. Well, I always think when you go abroad, that's what makes you appreciate home as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've done quite a lot of travelling in my younger years, and I definitely appreciate where I live now. So.
You and I both.
So your Instagram account's known as Buchanan Interior, and your actual flat's housed within the Buchanan Institute building, and that building was converted into flats back in 2000. But
that's correct.
Can you tell us a bit more about the building and its history?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's a listed B building in Glasgow, so from an architectural point of view, it holds a few wee treasures, especially for the East End of Glasgow. It's quite iconic, especially from a taxi driver's point of view, because every time you get into a taxi, they go, "Do you stay in the big White House?" And you go, "Yeah, just a wee proportion of it." But yeah, it was built in 1846. It was first commissioned in 1846 for Duncan McPhail, who was a local cotton laird, very wealthy, very well known in the East End. In fact, the street adjacent to us is called McPhail Street, and that was where the cotton factories would have been at one point. So he really didn't fall far from where he worked in the morning. It was then in 1859, there was a sum of £30,000 was donated by kind of philanthropist James Buchanan. And I think in today's money, it works out to be around about 3.8 million. So there was a healthy donation was given to the City Council, and it was then converted to the Buchanan Institute, which was for destitute boys, to help boys of the East End and Glasgow more industrial training. That served for quite a few years, up to about 1924. This is really testing my history today on the building. And it was then converted into Greenview, which was a school for boys with disabilities, learning difficulties, and then later St Aidan's, which was a school for kids with learning difficulties and disabilities at that point as well. So it's gone through many facelifts. Probably one of the most iconic facelifts was, I think it was around about 1884, around about that time, and it was William Brodie who commissioned Greyfriars Bobby.
Oh, yes.
So the sculptor, he commissioned the studious boy or the mathematician's boy. It's been known as the learned boy. It's been known as various things. So that's quite an iconic part of the building that you can see from outside. And if you see the facade of the building, it's a young boy sitting reading. And it was really significant, I suppose, at that point in the East End of Glasgow, especially from quite an industrial part. My family are all from the East End. Mm-hmm. So I'm very much aware of what was offered and what was expected for boys. The early kind of 20th century, there wasn't a lot of opportunity, mostly industrial. So at that point, that must have been quite a big, iconic looking, figurine to see, to certainly to aspire to for young guys. And then in 2002, it was converted into flats. So my flat is split over three parts of the building. Part of it from the original 1846 build, which was the house. Then the later conversion, and then the last part, I think it was in 1904, which is the building, the room I'm in just now, which would have been then added on as the Greenview School. So that this would have been a classroom. So it's quite exciting to think there was a lot of footfall, there was a lot of excitement going on in these rooms at times. I'm sure a lot of belt smacking at some point as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you've got quite a family connection to the building.
Yeah, absolutely.
And both your grands previously worked in the building. So did that draw you to
Do you know there was a part of me that didn't really truly grasp just the family roots and connection to it. I remember driving past when I was maybe about 11 or 12 in my dad's car and seeing the building at that point. I don't seem to remember it being white. It was just the old sandstone. And I can remember going, I'm only living there one time. And this was long before it was ever converted into flats. So I must have had some little spiritual or energetic connection to the building at that point as well. But yeah, both my gran was the caretaker, and one of my other grans was a cleaner at one point. And my mum, who we later found out she kept this secret, she attended the school when it was St Aidan's, but it was for, as we would now think, kids with extreme learning difficulties or special needs. It was actually, she was dyspraxic, so she came here for additional support through school as well. So there is certainly a long history, a family history here.
Yeah. Oh, that's
nice. It's nice to think, my grandparents and my mum at one point probably pounded the steps in here of either cleaning it or polishing it or shouting at some kids to tell them to stop running on the stairs. And there's an interesting fact about that. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's a lot of activity in this building. And the activity we hear all the time is tiny footsteps running up and down the stairs. And it's normally always around about between 3 and 5 in the morning. You wake up and there's this, it's like taking 2 at a time, running up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's been happening since the day we moved in. So, but I like that. No matter what it may be, I like that, and that intrigue of thinking there's something more still here residing within the building. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah. I like that. Good story. So going back to interior design then, when did you first get interested in interior design?
As I suppose a hairdresser and being quite creative, visually creative myself, I actually left school and went to study graphics and interior. And I decided that at that point I needed a little bit of life experience, and unfortunately gave that up and pursued a bit of travelling. I went to London at the age of 18, decided to go down there for a year and a half. And it was good. I think, that brought in some life experience, but certainly the creative part was still always there. And maybe I should have channeled it, but actually I quite enjoy it as a hobby. So I think it's always been in me. Working with a colour palette, I love bold colours. But the interior design part certainly excites me more than probably what the graphic did. And that was maybe where the downfall was. I was too stuck behind a desk, behind a computer for the graphic design. Things didn't excite me quite as much as if I would have gone straight into the interior design part. So it's always been there. It's been there from a young age.
Yeah, that's interesting because I would say I'm quite creative. I love the marketing side of the business, and I can picture what I want to do, but I couldn't actually do it myself.
Really?
And then now I have people within the business who can take these crazy thoughts and actually put them down and make great graphics and products. And
and that's a great thing, I think, now, to have a collective of people or things. And this is certainly for me with Instagram is such a big part now of not just what I do from a work capacity, because you've got so much opportunity to learn and look for inspiration at the touch of a button, but certainly from a home point of view. And when I started out with our little home page and the interior aspect of it, I think I got lost in that. I got lost in what the true essence of what I wanted to feel from my home. And I was trying to emulate and copy what other people's homes were. And it wasn't me. No disrespect to anyone with a gorgeous grey home. It's lovely, but it's a very bland palette for me personally. And I need to inject a wee pop of colour. I've probably got pink socks or something on today, because generally I dress with quite a plain palette on the outside with a wee flash of colour somewhere else.
I like that. Yeah, we've did our living room, and I've got an orange sofa and a red sofa. And when I suggested this, my husband was just like, really? Are you sure? And everything else is quite plain, quite sedate colours. But yeah, I love colour. I love
colour. Sorry, on you go.
No, I was going to say, if you love tartan, I suppose I was bound to love colour, wasn't I? But
you kind of have to, don't you, really? I read something one time that says that if you're struggling to dress your room, go into your wardrobe and then place pieces from your wardrobe into your room, and that gives you a good indication of what you feel comfortable in. So in physically and in what you're dressed as well. So if you love tartan, I think that's a great indication to say have a bit of fun with some colour.
Yeah.
Don't be frightened of it.
Oh well, I have. It looks good. So do you think then your Scottish heritage influences the way you design? Or?
Yeah, certainly. I think, again, the bold colour choice, we've got a lot of strong, bold accent colours throughout the flat. We're actually in the middle of a little project in our hallway. It's going to be all very, very plain. We've just had paneling installed. We're keeping it all white with a black ceiling, But on one wall, I'm in the process just now of deciding, do I go quite muted with the wallpaper? The one that I'm being 70% drawn to right now is a mustard background with really, in fact, something similar to some of these colours on this as well.
Which I love that.
And it's birds of paradise and various other plants. So, and I think, a statement in small spaces works. You either go against it or you go with it, and I tend to kind of go against it. And so far, I've been lucky enough that it kind of works.
I like the black ceiling then, so that's an interesting one.
Our bedroom's green, dark green, wall, ceiling, everything. We've got an exposed stone wall in there, and I thought, I want a bit of theatre, I want a bit of drama, and we've got really high ceilings. The ceilings are just under 4 meters, so we can certainly get away with having some depth. And a lot of people think it's going to bring the ceiling down, but actually it kind of has a cathedral-like feel to it, because there's a seamless blend. You don't see where the wall finishes and the ceiling begins. It kind of just draws your eyes around rather than straight up. So I think it works. I am also, Kenny calls this the kind of goth pad, because I love dark colours. And there is a gothic influence in many aspects of the flat. We've got a lot of period features, a lot of modern period features as well, with influences from the last kind of couple of generations or centuries. So I just, have fun with it, play with it. I'm not a minimalist in the slightest. So for me, certainly more is more. And I just think you need to comfortably live in your space. And if you want a show home, absolutely, that's great. I think if you have a show home that's quite minimal, you struggle to kind of live in it. If you've got a show home that's a little bit more exciting and there's lots of points, nothing really looks out of place, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I like that. So then if we go to the Buchanan Tartan, which is, if you go the modern one, it's really bold colours.
Funnily enough, the modern Buchanan Tartan certainly seems to have an influence in the flat with the reds, the blues, the gold or mustards throughout that as well. We certainly have that pop and that continuation throughout the full flat.
So if you were going to help someone to introduce a bit of tartan into their home, are there any ways you would advise using it, or any kind of wild ways and some safer ways? What would you suggest?
I think if you're going for something safe, throws and cushions are always great. We actually did have tartan on our sofa. We've got a brown leather Chesterfield. There was tartan on that. More of a kind of tweedy, purple heathers, that mix on our sofa at one point. Rugs, if you're looking for a small rug, it gives a nice focal point to your room, especially because there's more pattern within that as well. I love a tartan carpet. My next forever home I would love an old sandstone. And for me, it has to be a tartan carpet throughout the staircase. So, you can certainly draw focus to areas, I think, in adding something like tartan or strong, bold patterns and contrasts and colours work in defining areas. We have an open plan space. So for us, it was all about how do we define it? How do we make the living room separate from the dining area and from the kitchen area? And certainly I think a carpet or a throw seems to define that area. And when I mean a throw, I don't mean it on even simple things like the floor, but just over a footstool or a puffy or a side table, something like that. And it just creates a bit of warmth and a bit of softness for in that area as well.
Yeah, good. So this year you were listed by the Daily Record as Scottish Home Instagram account you have to follow.
I know, so I think they must be blind.
Rubbish, I've seen your Instagram. So why do you think they picked you? What was there?
It was funny, Anna, over lockdown, our Instagram page had grown exponentially. It was like, it really took off. We made it all really fun, really real about us as well, and obviously with strong interior influence as well. I didn't go on and try to tell people how to style their home or really work with brands. It was all about what we like, what we use, and what we do at home. We had a few lovely companies who'd reached out to us and offered us free products, which I had declined because I just felt that's not what this is about for us. This is about showcasing what we do and what we love, really. So I think for me, it's keeping it real. We've done a few DIY hacks that were really simple. There was a lot of plans this year for our home that lockdown had really put those plans on the back burner for us for the foreseeable, which was fine. And actually, it's been quite good because it's allowed me to reinvent actually what I would like to do with the flat. I am a workaholic. So for me, being at home for 4 months, I thought I'm going to kill Kenny. And I may actually, I don't know. That was probably the bigger panic. And I absolutely loved it. We got on like a house on fire. We had so much time just spending time at home and really enjoying the space. So it was great. But I think that came across on our Instagram, that people could relate to it. Not being afraid to use bold colouring, not being afraid to play around with changing the space as well. I think my living room has seen probably 3 facelifts over the last 4 or 5 months. So that element was simple. And again, making it, our bedroom we had a big renovation in the bedroom just in March. So it was great. It was done for lockdown, and there was a few things as that started to unfold. We got a lovely little article written about how to create a hotel bedroom. So I've done, little simple things, how to style your bedroom differently. I'm a cushion fiend. I collect cushions for a hobby now. So I was able to dress the bed quite a lot. So it was probably things that kept me sane, to be fair. Just by passing the day. As a hairdresser, I couldn't physically work from home. And almost doing that now for near on 20 years. It was really nice to have a break away from that and just explore this hobby, this time at home, and play around with the space. So I think that helped. I think that helped people through it that were following us. They could just connect, and we made them laugh. And Kenny had a Pringle, complete Pringle meltdown. He was eating tubes of Pringles every day, and that certainly got a bit of momentum on our story as well. So that helped, I must say.
Bit of humour is always good.
Totally.
So yourself then, for all you're called Buchanan Interiors, you're not a Buchanan.
No.
But are you associated then with a particular tartan or clan? Because
I am. So there is my full name is James Hughes Horn. So the Horn it's a Dutch descendant. But my mother's father's side, or my mother's maiden name, is actually Forbes. So we've got a strong connection to the Forbes tartan, more green colouring, which is lovely. I've worn it multiple times at weddings, hiring kilts and things like that. But other than that, directly namesake, no. But certainly through descendants, we have a strong connection to Forbes.
So are you a kilt man, or what do you prefer to wear?
Oh, I love a kilt, Anna. Oh, I wish any friends who I have down south or in the States think that we still walk around wearing kilts every day. And to be honest, I kind of wish we do. They're so comfortable. When I went to Australia, I took my kilt with me, thinking that I was going to go over there and I'd have a real edge about me, being a hairdresser, working in a city centre salon in Sydney. I would wear my kilt in. It absolute bombed. They did not get it. They thought, who is this guy walking around with a skirt, which is absolutely fine, but they just did not get it. So yes, I think I'll leave the kilt purely for special occasions.
I was thinking we had the kilted chef on last week, you see, so I was thinking we could have the kilted hairdresser too.
See, that's maybe a future one there. We could work on that. I'll need to check I can still fit into it, mind you.
There's always things can be done, don't there? So have you celebrated your Scottish roots from a young age then, or had an interest in your heritage, or not really, or what kind of family?
Yeah, yes and no. I think that my granddad, certainly when he was alive, had more of a keen interest in tracing back where the Forbes, and I think there's a lot of Aberdonian up north. There's certainly kind of royalty and land given along back in generations gone past. So throughout that side of things, but I certainly have a huge affiliation to Scotland. I'm very patriotic, like I said. Being Scottish, I feel very, very proud of it. We've travelled a vast part of Scotland, which has been lovely to see. And it's nice that I think people who are probably not going abroad are going to get to experience that and appreciate it. But I probably haven't dwelled fully into my family history as much as I should.
Well, it's still time.
That's very true.
I feel like it's something we almost come to with age as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, a bit like appreciating where you live and where you come from.
Definitely.
And maybe now, I suppose, if we've got a bit more time at home, and these are things you start to explore.
Yeah.
I know I really regret not asking my dad more questions about where all his kind of heritage and background, and I think, why wasn't I interested? Why didn't I ask him?
That's the sad part, though, isn't it? We miss those opportunities, and I suppose now social media, just the world of the World Wide Web puts you in touch with so many things as well, relatives that you could have potentially known about, but just maybe not, not asking those questions at the time could have. So it's.
And now I question my mum, and she says, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not very sure." I'm on the case. I'm trying to work it all out. So you were saying before, obviously, we really noticed people have been buying a lot more fabric and things for projects. They've been ordering curtains and different things. So
Yeah.
you were saying it's inspired you and your stories you've been doing on Instagram and things. So have you got more followers now, do you think, as a result of COVID, of people having more time at home and thinking more about their home environment?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, I feel like I'm pushing these articles that we had written about this, and I'm really not. But it came out of, it really did come as a bit of a surprise to us, because you're just doing what you do at home. You're doing bits of DIY. You're just playing around and trying things and documenting them as you go, thinking that if somebody watches your video, then that's great, you've touched someone. But we've done a few simple renovations. We bought some vinyl covering. We changed some of our sliding doors in our bedroom. And that got actually a great response from people contacting us and saying, oh, we're thinking about fabrics for pelmets and various things. Would you recommend it? I've done it and tried all these things along the way. Whether I make a monkey's rear end of it, I'm not 100% sure. But certainly I've always enjoyed the practical side of upcycling. And I've noticed hugely upcycling, creating on soft furnishings has taken off massively, whether it be people selling pieces of furniture, kind of like our sideboard here, and I've upcycled it, or starting small fabric, small cushion business in throws. And it's lovely to see that, because it's making people really resourceful in times where, what else do you do? So it's great to see that, it's having a direct impact in markets and local produce or local industries that are reaping the benefits from this as well.
Yeah, well, it's like one of our seamstresses, who really, the products she makes, she would have had very little to do just because of the way our orders have changed due to the virus. And she actually started making face masks for us. And she's basically had a full-time job now making face masks, and everybody's done about every tartan under the sun. And it's been brilliant. But we were so glad, because that's kept her in a job. And
yeah,
it's just being able to adapt a bit, isn't it? And use what you've got available. We've done lots more like smaller pieces of cloth and remnant bags. We sell offcuts and things, and people sending us pictures of some amazing stuff they've made with them.
It really is incredible when you see what people can do when they turn their hand to it.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier about not being able to do things with colour and things, or you've got that design aspect. If it's in you, or that creative part of your brain, if it's in you, I think when push comes to shove, and you either need something to do just to occupy your mind, or it's to occupy your pocket, your bank, you're certainly become a lot more resourceful when you need to be. So it's amazing.
Yeah, well,
it really is amazing.
We've seen people even taking kilts and things. I've made my kilt into a cushion, and somebody had actually pleated on the back of a chair, and they'd done the whole.
Love it.
It was fantastic. You should have a look at that. It must be on our Facebook page somewhere.
Oh, check that out.
Really cool stuff.
That's exciting.
Creative people. So what would your advice be then if someone's starting a big renovation project, or they've got something? What's your advice? How do we get started?
We were very fortunate. We lived in the flat for a few years as a rented flat. Part of it for me was I seen the building, like I said earlier. I knew I wanted to live there. So one came on the market to rent. So I snapped it up without even coming to view this place. So we lived here for a few years before we got to buy the place. So I felt very lucky that I was able to live in the space prior to then starting to rip it apart. If you've got the opportunity, live in the space, get a feel for it. I think that's a really, really important part. Look at utilising any piece of space that you possibly can. For me, fill a space with a chair or a piece of furniture or something. It always looks great, and you can always move it about. Our kitchen, we actually had it rewrapped at one point. And that was a great way to say, do I like bold colour choice? My kitchen is currently blue just now. Now that's quite a bold colour choice that I probably wouldn't purchase, but certainly to upcycle it for a year or two and do something that, lets you live with something fun. You go, yeah, I enjoy that. I don't want to spend X amount of money to actually buy a blue kitchen. So experiment, map it out. Don't be frightened to change spaces. I think any space, if it works for you, that's the most important part. Our spare bedroom, at one point we had it as a kind of TV snug area because it was really cozy in the winter. Our flat is probably not the best insulated until we've put new radiators and things in. So at one point we kind of used that for more of a wee snug area. That's now a dressing area. So we have 2 bedrooms. That second bedroom is converted to a full dressing room because nobody came to stay with us. And I thought, what's the point of having a double bed in there? You just store things in it. It's not being utilised by anyone coming to sleep in it. Let's get rid of it and make the space more practical for how we need it to. I'm a shoe fiend, Anna. an absolute shoe fiend. So you may see on my Instagram page, I have a full shoe wall.
Yeah,
So
I love that. That's something my favourite thing, actually.
For me, that was, it was a space
Yeah.
and something that we needed. We were quite limited in the flat because we don't have a lot of good storage. So a shoe collection in a cupboard, one, it's not great for the shoes. Two, it's not great for space. Three, Kenny was probably throwing them out without me noticing as well. So at least now I can count them and I know how many's there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that was one of my things when I moved in, and I wanted my space with my shelving for my shoes.
It's important.
Yeah, things you love.
Yeah.
So what about fabrics and textures then? Have you got favourites? What do you like and what influences your style?
I do love a bit of velvet, I must say. Now, not like kind of crushed velvet. I'm not a huge fan of crushed velvet, but I do love textures. You may have seen I've been using my hands the full time I'm talking to you. I'm a kinesthetic, emotional feelings person. So for me, it's all about being surrounded by soft furnitures, soft textures. I love contrasting textures, so satins against velvets. I've got a lot of kind of soft wools on our sofa. In fact, I'm looking at them just now. We've got 2 soft woolen throws, one on the chair as well. So I think not being afraid to mix the textures as well. Our bedroom, we've got leathers against soft velvets as well. So, and obviously you can never go wrong, in a bedding, I think, is keeping it simple, white, clean cotton, and then mixing with any kind of sort of textures and fabrics on top of that as well. Yeah. And a bit of fur. You need a little bit of fur. Not real, obviously, not real fur.
No, but we do a beautiful faux fur throw, and it's so lovely. And you back that. You can choose any tartan, so there's about 500 different ones you choose from. It's so nice. That's my.
Anna, you're not doing good for my bank balance just now. You do realise that? I'm now thinking of the things I need to change and have tartan on the back of them.
Yeah, well, and I was trying to redesign a cape this morning because I was like, surely we could add a bit of faux fur to that. That would be nice. So,
that would be lovely.
Yeah. It's on the cards. So I'm imagining your Christmas tree will be perfectly decorated. And we've noticed everyone is already excited about Christmas. We've already sold Christmas stockings and various decorations for people's homes. So how do you celebrate? What do you do?
I celebrate Christmas in a massive way. I'm a big lover of Christmas. Christmas tree is a really important thing. Not so much Christmas decorations, but certainly the Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate with high ceilings, we can get away with having quite a big Christmas tree. So our tree is normally around about 8.5, 8 foot, running around there. I keep it quite traditional. We're reds, silvers and greens and have been now for the last few years. And I do quite like it. Probably doesn't fully go with the colour scheme in the flat, but I do quite like it. I think it's quite traditional. Lights, keeping it simple, but definitely true to nature, the more the merrier. Definitely filling it with as many. I've actually collected quite a lot of Christmas items along the way. And I feel it would be quite sad now to change the colour scheme because they are, there's I suppose, memories attached to a lot of them as well, and some from family that's been given, some old Christmas decorations that I just wouldn't part with that are round the back of the tree because aesthetically they don't look quite as good, but they're there in essence. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's nice that, isn't it? It's that those familiar things, and my mum always cringes when we get out, when we always go to hers, and we always insist on having this rotating thing with candles underneath, and she's like, it's awful, and we're like, but we've had that since we were little kids. So, and
then I think Christmas should be tacky. I think if you had a room and you could put these, remember those foil decorations on the ceiling, I would love it. I wouldn't have it in the living room that I lived in all day because I couldn't cope with the dust for one. But I think I love the tack. I love what Christmas is all about. And I think, we don't have kids and we've got lots of kids in the family. And I think for them, it's really exciting to see their wee eyes, be in awe of all these Christmas decorations and coloured lights. So, yeah, we keep it simple, but the Christmas tree certainly is a big feature.
A big feature. Oh, well, we'll look forward to seeing pictures of that on your Instagram.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
We do enjoy following your Instagram and what you're up to. So we'll have to send you over some tartan so you can do some styling.
That would be lovely. Thank you so much.
For our customers what to do.
No pressure then, guys. No pressure.
No pressure. And yes, they can follow you at Buchanan Interior. So And where can we come and get our hair cut too?
You let me know and I will make it happen. We are the MD Beauty Lounge is based in Bash Street in Glasgow, and aesthetically, I think that for me was probably the biggest draw to go there. It's a gorgeous salon, really is beautiful, and it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds over the coming months and years, because I think the culture here is changing as well with people. And Instagram is opening up a new opportunity for people to learn how to do things at home, which I fully encourage. Just don't put a box dye on your hair. That's the only thing. That's my word of advice today.
No, I'm too chicken to do that.
I love your curls, they're fab.
I was always threatening to get a wig during lockdown so that then I would look perfect on anything I went on.
Well, Anna, can I say the wig thing is I don't know why, but I really foresee it becoming such a big thing. Girls went on with these extensions and clip-in ponytails, but actually wigs, I don't know why people don't utilise them. You know, back in the 20s, 30s and 40s, they used them quite a lot, 40s and 50s. It was an absolute fashion accessory. Yeah. So, yeah, if you fancy getting yourself a bowl, make it like my kitchen. Don't invest in dyeing your hair blue. Just buy a blue wig. That would give you more options.
Match the stripe in the tartan. Perfect.
There you go.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Look forward to following you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.